Today I will teach you about one of the best editing softwares on the market. We are talking about Final Cut Pro. This will be a walkthrough through the whole software to get you started as quick as possible. I've been working with Final Cut Pro since the last 8 years, and I created everything from music videos to social media content to many YouTube tutorials. So if you're new to the channel, welcome, my name is Eric. Now settle down, take out your pen and papers, and let's start open Final Cut Pro. We are starting with a quick overview. Over here on the right side we got the media section with your footage, sounds, titles and generators. Of course, the viewer in the middle where you will see the picture, the inspector on the right side where you can make adjustments to every clip, transition, effect or sound effect. Of course, the timeline on the bottom where you will spend the most of your time, and on the bottom right corner the effects and transitions browser. Now I know you guys want to start editing as soon as possible, but before we do that, we have to make sure some adjustments are made to keep your editing process later on fast and smooth. First thing we gotta do, we click on our preferences over here and click on import. Under transcode we have the option to create optimized media and proxy media. Now these two options are there to make your editing process way faster, especially when you are working on an older or not powerful Mac. Now if you're not sure about your Mac, I highly recommend you check those two boxes to make sure high render times doesn't stop your creativity. So first thing, we open our library and do a right click to create a new event. Events will help us to find our footage and our projects later on when our library is growing. Now of course we need a project as well, so do a right click on your new created event and create a new project. Now with this done, we are ready to import our media. The easiest way and the way I import my media is via drag and drop. So I select my clips or folders and drag them into my event. As soon as you've done this, you will recognize a little process icon over here. When you click on it, you can open it and see what Final Cut is doing in the background. As you can see, Final Cut is transcoding our media. For larger projects, I definitely recommend to wait till this process is finished. If it's a really small project like ours, just keep on creating. Now we can see our project as well as our media in the media browser. Now if you guys want a little more detailed view of your media, click on the little icon over here above your browser and adjust the time scale and the size of your media. When you turn on video skimming on the right above your effects browser, you can now view your clips in the media browser by scrubbing through it with your mouse. This is a very intuitive and helpful tool when you only want certain parts of a clip. Also, it can really be helpful to resize your media browser while scrubbing through your media. Now instead of pulling whole clips into your timeline, we are going to use the skim tool that we already enabled. Simply find a spot where you want to start your clip, press the right mouse key and keep on pressing it while selecting your clip. Maybe an easier way for you is a shortcut. Press I for input and press O for output and you easily selected a part of your clip. If you work with a big amount of footage, it can really be helpful to select your good shots before you start editing. By selecting your clips with in and out markers and pressing F to favorite them, which gives them this little green bar on top, the clips will automatically be saved in your smart collection. When you finished favorizing your clips, you can change the sort from all clips to favorites, and Final Cut Pro only shows you the part of the clips you favored. Now this will save you a ton of time and headache for searching the right part of the clips later. Now with all those steps done, we can finally start editing. Now from here we drag our selected clips from the media browser into our timeline. As soon as we do that, Final Cut Pro asks us about the video resolution of our project. Now it totally depends on you what you want to export later. To give you the highest possibilities in post, I would recommend to go with 4K and 25 frames per second. As soon as you put a second clip into your timeline, you will recognize that the timeline is magnetic. That means when you place a second clip, it will automatically stick to the clip before. Of course, you can also lift a clip above another clip to create B-roll section. If you want to disable a clip to see what is below this clip, simply select it and press V to disable it, and press V again to enable it. To trim clips, simply use the trim tool by hovering your mouse over the end or the start of a clip. To cut a clip, use B to bring up the blade tool. Hold B, make your cut and release B to get automatically back to the selective tool. When you press B once, the blade tool will stay on. Go back to the selector tool by pressing A. Delete a cutted part by pressing backspace and undo your last adjustment by pressing Command C. Now when it comes to creative editing, the speed of a clip is definitely a big topic. Select your clips and press Command R to bring up the speed tool. Now drag the ends by this little handle right here towards each other to speed up your clip and extend the clip to make it slower. Or simply choose a speed by clicking on the little arrow next to the percentage. If you want to create speed ramps, then select the clip and press Shift B. This will create a speed transition. Now simply make one part of the clip faster or slower. As soon as you've done this, you will recognize those gray bars beside the speed transition. Those gray bars symbolize your transition, so when you shorten them, the transition gets harder, and when you open them up, the transition gets way smoother. This is also how speed ramp transition works. You speed up the last part of the first clip and speed up the first part of the second clip. Now that you know the basics, let's look at a more creative part of editing and start with transitions. Since you already have 2 clips in your timeline, you created your first transition. Now this is a pretty basic clean cut transition, so let's look what Final Cut Pro has to offer. When you head up to the transitions browser on the right and click on the little transitions icon, you can now see all the transitions Final Cut Pro has to offer. Like on the media browser as well, you can hover with your mouse and scrub over the transition to see what it will look later. Once you made a choice, simply drag the transition between 2 clips. Extend the transition by grabbing one end to make the transition slower and push the ends towards each other to make the transition faster. You can also drag the transition from the middle. This will allow you to find the right spot for your transition. When you drag the transition from the right corner handle, you can move the transition with extending the first clip without changing the duration. By double-click on your transition, you will open up the Precision Editor. Here you are able to do way more fine adjustments to your transition. Exit the Precision Editor by clicking on the little arrow back to your timeline. Some transitions will give you the option to customize the transition itself. To enter this, click on the transition and head to the inspector window on the right. You can also import third-party transitions and effects as well. If you guys are interested in more dynamic and creative transitions, then check out the link right above here. I have a whole playlist with my free plugins and transition and effects. Now effects are of course a big part of editing as well, so let's start with some basic adjustments you can make on every single clip. By selecting a clip, you bring up the basic adjustments in your inspector window. Here you can change the blend mode, the opacity of the clip. You can scale the clip up and down, move it all around, change the rotation, crop it from every side and distort it. If you want to undo your changings, simply press the curved arrow next to the keyframe button on the right. You will also find the stabilization tab at the bottom. As soon as you press the button, Final Cut Pro will start to analyze your clip. This will crop into your footage in order to stabilize it, but it will make your video usually way better and way more stable. But of course, this is not all. Beside this little inspector icon, you have the little triangle. Click on that to bring up your color grading options. The options are color board, color wheels, and curves. Now all those options work basically the same. You can control the color, saturation and exposure by changing the highlights, the midtones and the shadows. Now usually a color grading looks like this. You start up with exposing your footage right. To bring up the Luma graph, press Command 7. Now adjust the highlights by bringing them up right before they are clipping, which is showing as a cut a little bit over 100. Then bring down your shadows without touching the clipping line to maximize your dynamic range. When your exposure is right, you can start to manipulate the colors in the Colors tab. Now color grading is a big topic, and if this is too much for your first day but you still want to have a great look on your footage, maybe you should try out a LUT. Which brings us to the effects browser. Click on the little effects icon right next to the transition icon to bring up all your effects. Now, like in the media browser as well, by scrubbing on the effect, Final Cut Pro will give you a preview how the effect will look on your footage. Now, if you made a decision of one effect, simply drag the effect on top of your footage. By clicking on the video inspector, you can now customize the effect on your needs. As we want to apply a LUT, we search for LUT in the search bar down here, choose Custom LUT and drag it on top of our clip. Now simply select the LUT of your choice and adjust the mix to your needs. If you guys need a free LUT pack, I will link you my free LUT pack up here. Now the problem is the effect and the LUT will only appear on that one clip we put it on top. But what if we want the LUT to affect our whole video? Well then guys, you need an adjustment layer and I highly recommend you to get one. Unfortunately, Final Cut Pro does not come with adjustment layers, but I will link you my free adjustment layer up here. It comes as a titles overlay, so when you go to your titles in your media browser, simply search for adjustment and lay it on top of your footage. Now apply all your effects such as the LUT on top of the adjustment layer, and everything beneath the adjustment layer will be affected. Now let's speak about audio. When your clip has an audio level or you edit an audio clip to your timeline, then you can select that and you will find an speaker icon in your inspectors window. Here you can adjust the volume and play with an equalizer. Of course, Final Cut Pro offers a lot of audio effects as well. You will find them in your audios browser. Simply scroll down and there comes the topic audio. Speaking about audio clips, they pretty much behave like video clips as well. You can trim them by using the trim tool. You can cut them by using the blade tool and pressing B. If you need a slow fade in, simply use those little teardrops on the end of your clip and pull them into your audio, so your audio will slowly fade in. By dragging this little line up and down, you can change the volume as well. If you want to adjust the volume of a certain part of the clip, then press R, select the part of the clip, and then you can control only the loudness of that part. Now Final Cut Pro offers a lot of audio clips and sound effects in the sound effects library. Go to your media's browser and click the little sound icon over here. There you can find anything from sound effects to little pieces of music which you can use for free. If you want to choose one, then simply select it and drag it underneath your footage. Now finally, let's talk about exporting your video, which is pretty easy in Final Cut Pro. Simply hit the share icon on the top right corner and select Apple devices 4K. Head over to settings and check if the resolution is really the resolution you want to export your video. I recommend to go with H.264 better quality. Then hit next, give your video a name and select a folder where you want to save it. Now, as I said before, my name is Eric, I do Final Cut Pro tutorials and I have a lot of free plugins, so check out all my other videos. If you guys haven't already, smash the sub button right now and follow me on Instagram, lifted_Eric. Thanks for watching, see you guys in the next one.